Hello and welcome to Charter Local Edition Northwest. I'm Dana Cowley, your host for today's segment. We're in downtown Walla Walla in the beautiful Marcus Whitman Hotel, and my guest today is Colin Hastings. He's the president of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce. Colin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me here. It's great to be in downtown Walla Walla. It's a short drive from Pasco, and this is a great hotel, so this is an honor for me to be here.
Well, you are legitimately concerned about continued efforts to remove our dams.
Yes, it seems like it's just one of those issues that don't go away, and it seems that the opposition that really wants to remove the dams don't go based on fact, but they go based on emotion, and it's really hard for us to battle against that. And so I'm here to hopefully set the record straight and make sense as to why the lower Snake River dams are so important to our area.
And you're focused specifically on the Snake River.
Yeah, the lower Snake River dams seem to be the target of some of the environmentalists, especially Patagonia, your clothing company. They equalize it to the Condit Dam and the Elwha Dam that was removed, and they're so far different. The Elwha Dam and the Condit Dam didn't have fish passage. They had no navigation through there, as well as they didn't serve any sort of energy purposes too. The lower Snake River dams provide clean, renewable power that nearly powers 2 million houses in the Northwest, and it's clean.
Tell us a little bit more about the dams on the Snake and then what they do provide for folks that aren't that familiar with them.
Sure. They provide so much economic benefit. Of course, I touched on energy a little bit, but there's the transportation. You think of a barge tow that comes down, and mostly it's wheat. By the way, the lower 4 Snake River dams, 10% of the United States wheat production comes through those dams, and it is a major economic thoroughfare for that. It also provides irrigation for the farmers. It provides a ton of help for us around here, and it's just one of those things where, if they were to be removed, it would set us back so far because it's such a major economic driver for us.
Well, when you hear what our environmentalist group wants, what are their primary reasons for wanting the dams removed after so many years? Because they've been in place for at least 50 years.
They have been, and their arguments usually center around the salmon runs. And for the last 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of work going through to make sure that we ensure that those salmon return. We have an agreement with the 3 states of Idaho, Washington, Oregon, tribal groups, environmentalists. It's called the Columbia River Biop. And it ensures that we spend resources, basically us ratepayers that buy the power, help provide salmon rearing habitat, whether it's in the estuary or the tributaries. And it's actually worked to the point where we have record runs of salmon returning, wild and hatchery salmon. In addition to that, we've put a lot of focus on the young juvenile salmon returning to the ocean. The 4 lower Snake River dams have this high-tech weir system where there's a 97% survival rate going through those 4 dams as little, 2-3 inch juveniles heading back to the river. That's a success. It's one thing that I'll say, Patagonia, they do a lot of clothing lines and stuff, and just like any other clothing line, they make their clothes in China. But you know what? They depend on coal power and hydropower to make those clothes. And you know what? It'd be great if he just located one of his shops here. That way he can have our clean, renewable energy that actually saves fish for his clothing.
Well, and as that area grows, there'll be a continuing need because that corridor continues to get more and more populated.
Well, you bet. We're in Walla Walla. It actually touches so many folks throughout southeastern Washington and Idaho and even Oregon as well, too. It is it's 365 miles to the ocean from here, and there's a lot of wheat that goes down, soybeans, but it also provides a lot of transportation upriver, too, of petroleum products, sand, gravel. If they weren't existing there would be a lot more trucks on the road. There'd be a lot more rail, which rail capacity is already maxed, it seems like we hear in the news already.
Some reports of that.
Yeah, so if we were to take those dams out, it would just make no sense environmentally or economically.
You mentioned to me before our interview started that some of the environmentalist groups are even tapping into Obama's children.
They are. So the new sort of trend in this is really tapping into the southern resident orca population. And they say that the lower Snake River dams are threatening the orca population. So, who doesn't like orcas and killer whales. There's been movies made about them.
Love me some orca.
Exactly. Yeah, we all do. You know, it's a symbol of the Northwest.
Yes.
No, we don't. And same with the salmon as well too. But you know, National Marine Fisheries has already stated that there's a sustainable population of salmon to feed the orcas, which also feed not primarily on salmon, but also on baby whales, baby gray whales, seals. So, you know, it's an emotional
I did think orcas
argument.
ate a variety of things.
You bet. You know, even octopus as well too, and squid. You know, it's not just salmon. So it's an emotional plea. They allowed Obama's daughters to have a certificate of adoption for a couple of the orcas, because it really tugs on people's heartstrings. But at the same time, they cloud over the facts and they use wrong stats to prove their point based on emotion. And the reality is the stats behind the importance of the lower Snake River dams are there.
Have you adopted an orca?
I haven't, but I've adopted a couple salmon this year that I caught coming upriver in our record salmon run, so it tastes great. Yeah, you bet.
All right, and any other concluding thoughts?
Well, you know, the final thoughts is the importance of the Snake River dams. And it's not just locally, it's internationally as well too. When you think about the clean energy that it provides and the Northwest, it powers so much of our energy, whether it's industry or households. It provides a basis for agriculture and farming to feed the world, and transportation, keeping our roads less congested and our rails less congested. It just makes economic sense and environmental sense to keep the lower Snake River dams in.
Thank you so much.
Dana, thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate you being here. This is Colin Hastings.
Yeah,
He's the president of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce. And I'm Dana Cowley. This is Charter Local Edition Northwest.